Femi, I'm wondering in Nigeria, the impact that's on journalists there, the repression there, and what they're up against. We talked about what that means for up-and-coming journalists. I'm wondering what that means for democracy in Nigeria. Is democracy backsliding as a result? What's the connection?
I think firstly, when we look at the connection between democracy and press freedom, I think it's clear that the healthier a country's democracy is, naturally, their press freedom should be quite healthy. And though Nigeria's press freedom numbers on a general scale aren't great, there has been a slight improvement. What we have done is now come out of a general election cycle where the country went to the polls to vote in a new president, new state representatives, governors, and the like. And there have been allegations of electoral misconduct, electoral fraud, discrepancies in figures. And whichever side of the political line any person in Nigeria falls upon, it does beg the question of whether or not they are aware of the tie between a democracy and press freedom. Democracy in Nigeria is not the healthiest. If we look across the African continent, countries like Malawi, far smaller, but have a strong sense of democracy, a healthier democracy. And there are many countries on the continent that seek to learn things from Malawi. Nigeria in itself is developing at an astounding pace. It is the most populous country on the continent. It continues to boost through certain constraints. So I do want to make clear that all is not lost and all is not terrible in Nigeria. Right. And there's definitely a lot that needs to happen. But I think if we focus on improving the quality of our democracy, Nigeria will hopefully become a safer place for journalists to not only exist, but indeed thrive, because the relationship between a democracy and its press and press freedom is inextricable. So I think we're seeing this worsening of press freedom in recent years. Of course, there's been an improvement this year, and link it to the worsening state of democracy. But we have just come out of an election cycle. On the whole, the same political party has been returned to power, and we can look at these next 4 years as a marker of this difference, if any,
right,
when it comes to the quality of democracy, and then use that as a lens to look at how press freedom is improving. And I would like to see a situation in which many Nigerians in Nigeria feel proud of their democracy and their democratic representative and their democratic responsibility. Often, not just in the global south, but indeed in America, impoverished people tend not to vote. Impoverished people tend not to use their political power in the way that they should. And that's starting to change in Nigeria. So it's an absolutely important time to look at the country and look at the state of its democracy and see how that improves lots of different metrics of development, not only in Nigeria, but indeed across the continent. So it is definitely a time of optimism, but you can't have too much optimism because you have to be realistic in the country that you are, the risks that everybody faces, but definitely the risks journalism faces.